I'm going to let everyone into the room right now. We
All
should
right.
have a really good amount of people in the room today. I'm very happy to tell you. We should have a great turnout. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Frances Kweller. We are going into this rather quickly. We're probably going to start within the next minute. I just want to remind all of you that the Hunter exam is on April 5th. It should be an excused absence that day. And I want to remind you to register for the test. To sign up for the test, you should be getting tickets. You should be on the Hunter website, HCHS. It's called Hunter College High School. And I just want to remind you that you want to make sure that you're getting correspondence. Kweller Prep is also text messaging you alerts and information. And as many of you received a text message today, just know that this is we're gonna be communicating a lot. We have a lot of webinars outside of what you've paid for in this program. We have a lot of free extra help, webinars, workshops. We really want you to succeed. So I just want to make that very clear to everyone. Our goal, Ken, do you mind letting people in the room while I'm speaking, just so that I can
Sure.
speak without interruption for a minute? We really just want to share with you that we want you to succeed, and that's our number one. So we have the webinar that will take place right now. Kenny is an expert. Kenny is a book author. Kenny's super talented. So we're really, really lucky to have Kenny and to have Kenny's help. So I just want to share that we really are bringing, the big guns to the Kweller Prep cohort of extra help, webinars, and workshops. So there are 2 Hunter College High School released exams on the Hunter website. And there you will see 3 poetry passages. So the first exam had 1, and then the other released one had 2. So there were 2 poetry passages in the last exam that Hunter released. So be prepared. You'll have 1 to 2. You'll also see poetry again on the SHSAT, which brings me to Kenny's book, which is published and which is sold on the Kweller Prep website. It's also sold on Amazon. And it's called SHSAT, but truthfully, you can apply all of these terms and rules to the Hunter test. I want to share that with you. Please also make sure that the Kweller Prep texting alerts, make sure that you save it, make sure that you favorite it. It's really important that you, just be ready, because we are texting updates, we're emailing updates. There's just going to be a lot of communication between now and the exam. So without further ado, Kenny, I want to take a moment to say thank you for doing this. Thank you for making time. Thank you for being part of helping the Kweller Prep students. Thank you for going out of your way to arrange for this webinar. You're an incredibly busy person, and we really appreciate that you're doing this right now. So I really do want to extend gratitude. And without further ado, knowing that the Hunter exam is around the corner, it's on April 5th, 2023. And there was 1 poetry passage on the first exam that was released, 2 poetry passages on the other. We definitely need help with the poetry section. So at this point, I will take over the admit room. I will also be on mute. I will be in the background. And Kenny, you will be leading this webinar. Thank you to everyone for listening. It's really important that you're doing this. And I just want to remind you that, we don't take it lightly that you're helping us. Thank you. Thank you so much. I will be on mute and I will be in the background.
Thank you, Francis. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here and then we'll get started. So first off, I want to show everyone the tips that Hunter has released for the poetry passages, and you'll find these slides on the official Hunter College High School website under their webpage for the entrance exam, right here for English poetry tips. So these slides are meant to help you feel less anxious about reading and understanding poetry. They're meant to help you learn and relearn basic poetry terms, to help you practice summarizing a poem's plot and mood, and to help you try test-taking strategies that are useful for the poetry and other sections. So, why do poems make some students nervous? Some people love poetry or find poetry easy, but for many excellent readers and writers, poetry can seem confusing and even intimidating. The good news is that a little practice can help a lot. Many schools don't teach very much poetry, and many students first experience poetry as very easy, possibly too easy, like Dr. Seuss's children's books. Then they experience poetry as very hard, maybe too hard, like Shakespeare's sonnets. The Hunter test tends to have a reading passage that uses poetry. It is chosen to be age appropriate, somewhere between Dr. Seuss and Shakespeare. You do not need special knowledge to do well on this section. Now, as was pointed out earlier, the Hunter test may have either one or two poems, and on these first sample tests, there is one poem. On the second sample test, there are two. The kind of poem that you'll see on the test is called lyric poetry because this kind of poem started a very long time ago as lyrics to songs. Like song lyrics, these poems tend to tell a little bit of a story with strong emotions, and the feelings sometimes change within one poem. The poems are meant to be experienced over and over, so they tend to pack a lot of meaning into a few words. This is one reason poems tend to have a lot of imagery and figurative language to make them more interesting to picture. And finally, these poems are meant to be heard as well as read, so they tend to repeat or do other interesting things with sounds. Here are some useful terms, and we'll have 3 slides with useful terms here. And make sure to pay careful attention to these definitions because there will be a quiz coming up. All right, so the speaker of a poem is like the narrator of a story or the singer of a song. A stanza in a poem is like a paragraph in a story or a verse in a song. A poem can be only one stanza long. However, if you see some extra line breaks in a poem, that means that it has more than one stanza. A line is not a sentence. It can be longer or shorter than a sentence. Poets often use line breaks to heighten or change moods. And here's a tip. Knowing something about a poem's speaker can often help you figure out the poem's mood. For example, if the speaker is a child, imagine that a child is telling you the words of the poem when you answer the questions. Some more useful terms. Imagery means sensory details. Metaphor or simile means the use of a not literal comparison to emphasize an idea. Remember, metaphors are comparisons without the use of like or as, and similes are comparisons that do use the words like or as. Personification is giving something non-human human qualities. A symbol is an image that has both a literal and a more general meaning. A hyperbole is an exaggeration. And here's another tip. When you first read a poem, it is less important to understand the individual words, sentences, and literary devices than to understand the main moods that the poem communicates. Jot down emotion words in the margins as or right after you read the poem. And finally, some additional useful terms. Rhyme. Rhyme refers to when words that end with the same sounds like cat and bat are used. Poems can rhyme, but they do not have to rhyme. Alliteration means words, or it refers to the use of words that begin with the same sound, like photograph and film. And lastly, onomatopoeia refers to the use of words that sound like the things they mean, like oink or splash. Another tip, don't worry about identifying literary or sound devices unless there is a question that asks about it. All right, so we'll do a quick review when we get to the Kahoot later. But some general tips for the test. You can choose which section you want to do first, and you do not have to do all the reading passages one after another. Just decide for yourself what order helps you think most clearly. Remember that easy questions earn the same number of points as hard ones, so if you're spending more than a few minutes on a single question, go ahead and mark it, skip it, and come back to it later. Write your ideas on the test. For example, you can underline or circle phrases that you think are important in the reading passages, or cross out answers that you know you can eliminate. And of course, you should practice with the sample tests. And you can find the sample tests again on this Hunter College High School entrance exam webpage and download the two sample exams right here. In a moment, I'll show you um, the,
I just wanna, if it's okay, Kenny, I just wanna say it also in my voice to make sure all the kids hear. So Kenny, can you point to where the exams are? So we're on the Hunter website. Can you just show them so they know exactly where to look? So everyone, remember, it's HCHS, even though at Kweller, all of our emails just say Hunter. but the actual school is Hunter College High School because it's a 7 to 12 and it's college preparatory. So this, do you see this, Kenny? Can you make it larger just so the kids see exactly where we're going?
Sure.
So this is exactly where you can see sample test 1 and this is sample test 2, and they each have poems. Kenny, I'm correct, right? Test 1 has 1 poem, test 2 has
That's
2
right.
poems,
Test
right?
1 has 1 poem. The title of the poem in test 1 is called Slanted Figures. And the 2 poems in sample test 2 are titled Experience and Disappointment.
Good. So you can always get those. And of course, Queller's going to have webinars. We got you guys. Don't worry. We love you. We take good care of you. So we're going to do reviews. We're going to help you. We're going to go through question by question. But this is a great place to reference. And the answer is all the answers to these questions is it's there. It's located. Okay, so keep that in mind. And this is straight off the Hunter website. I also just want to remind you quickly, last year, the multiple choice had 50 questions. English, there was a writing assignment, 30 math questions. Please remember, if you could, listen, it's up to you, of course, but please remember, if you could start with the math, make sure that you try to, tackle that first, accumulate your math questions, and then go to reading. Don't spend more than, let's say, 1 minute or a minute and a half per question with the math, because if you get stuck, don't worry, just guess and go to the next question. Make sure that you bubble after every individual question. Kenny, if you could please just remind them of that. Also, do not wait until the end of the test to bubble. You have to bubble after each question. You might not be testing in order. And don't focus on things that you don't know, focus on things that you do. And just remember that there are 30 math questions. You'll get about 50 points in total from that. So it's worth a little more than the reading. The reading is a point apiece, and that you also want to keep in mind that it's just harder to read. So the math itself will be a bit easier for you to tackle. It's also a little more stimulating. With that being said, Kenny, we're going back to you. I'll be on mute.
Thank you, Francis. All right, so let me just show everyone what the 2 poems or 3 poems look like on these 2 sample tests here. So you can find the first poem. It's the reading passage B in the sample test number 1, and this title is Slanted Figures. You'll notice that there are 5 questions for this poem here. Usually there are fewer questions for the poems than there are for the other passages. And in sample test number 2, the first poem is this one titled Experience. And you can see here there are, looks like 8 questions for the, no, actually 11 questions for that poem. And Disappointment. Disappointment is the second poem in the sample test number 2. And this one is a bit of a longer poem. And it has, looks like, about 9 questions or so. So I also want to point out to everyone that you can find study guides for each of the poems that I just referred to. So on the Hunter College High School website for the entrance exam, you'll see the first study guide for the poem in the first sample exam listed here. And it's just like the slides that we just went through. And you'll see that in addition to the general tips that we talked about earlier, we have an overview slide here, which I'll just quickly go through here. These are some common questions that you should ask yourself as you're reading the poem. So who is the speaker? Where is he? What happens in the poem? What imagery and figurative language are used in the poem? What is the poem's mood? And this is a slide that goes through the answers for each of those questions for that specific poem that you see here in sample test number 1. And of course, the following slides give you answer explanations for each of the questions that are provided for this poem. Under here on the exam webpage, again, you can find the 2 sample guides, the 2 study guides for the 2 poems in the sample exam number 2. And again, it's in the same format. So again, of course, as you're reading the poem, you should ask yourself these questions. And after you try out that sample test and have completed those practice questions, you can refer back to these slides to check your answers. And again, the answer explanations are fairly detailed, so If you have any questions about your mistakes, you can go through the slides yourself. And because the slides for, well, because the answer explanations for the 3 poems on the 2 sample exams are provided to you on the Hunter College High School entrance exam website, I've decided not to go through those specific poems with you today, but instead we'll be going through some additional poems from a separate source. But before I get to that, here are some places you can find additional poems. You can just search Poetry 180 in Google for the link to Poetry 180. You can also visit the Poetry Foundation at poetryfoundation.org, and you can find some more poems at poets.org. So let's head over to the Kahoot that I have set up for everyone here today. You can join the Kahoot at kahoot.it and enter this game pin, and you'll need to enter this 4-symbol pass pattern in order to unlock access.
So Kenny's gonna put the link into the chat so that everyone sees. And then everyone who's in the group right now, we're just gonna play a little game just to see who can get the questions right. So this is a game and it's actually going to be fun, but we need to make sure that you join in. So Kenny's gonna put the link, and then if you could just copy and paste the code. So this is the link. He just sent it. I'm also going to send it over. And Kenny, if you could just type the code in as well, so all the kids can retype the code, okay?
Yes.
And this will be an opportunity to quiz you. With that, while we're waiting for people to join, and Kenny's gonna type the code in as well. While we're waiting, I just wanna remind you, last year there were 50 reading-based questions. There was no direct grammar. They got rid of that years ago. So it was straight reading passages, answer the questions, poetry, 2 poems that you had to answer questions. And there were 50 in total in the English language arts section. About halfway through the exam, page 17, there was the essay. Last year, Hunter used a graphic essay. It was a picture. And the picture, you had to write about the picture. It was hard. I mean, you had to basically reference the picture and talk about the visual essay. This is the first time Hunter ever used a visual essay. I just want to remind all of you of that. And also, please make note that this was something new. So you really had to make sure your vocabulary, your grammar, your elevated vocabulary was in sync for this essay because it was hard. After that, there were 30 math questions. So from the 30 questions, remember, it accumulates to 50 points plus 50 points with the reading to get a total of 100. Historically, the cutoff score was 64. So you actually failed the Hunter test, but then you passed. So go figure how that works. With that being said, you don't need to get an 80 or 90 or 100% of the questions right. You just need to accumulate 64 raw points. Math is worth more. You want to go a little higher, and just keep that in mind. With that being said, Kenny, you sent the link over, right? I just want to make sure.
Yes, it looks like we have 53 participants right now.
So can everyone please look at the chat box, look at the link, and just quickly go into that link. I'm going to add it into the chat one more time. Okay, and you put the code in, right? Okay, here we go. All right,
so we'll
we're
get
going
started
to
here.
started. Okay, and I'll be on mute in the backdrop. So this is going to be just a little quiz of some of the Hunter poetry terms, and let's see how you do. And the link is in the chat.
All right, so your goal is to match the definition of each term, and here are the words that you'll want to match up to each definition. The first word is speaker, the second word is stanza, the third word is line. And so far we have about 20 answers. All right, and let's take a look at the results here. Looks like 44 of you got this one correct. And so Remember, the speaker of a poem is the narrator of a story or the singer of a song. A stanza is like a paragraph in a story or a verse in a song, and a line is not a sentence. It's often used as breaks to heighten or change moods. And looks like Groovy Cheetah's in first place. All right, so the next set of words, again, match the definition of each term. Your first term is imagery, the second term is metaphor or simile, the third term is personification, and the fourth term is symbol. Go ahead and enter your answers. All right, so it looks like 34 of you got this one. Remember, imagery refers to sensory details. A metaphor or simile is the use of a not literal comparison to emphasize an idea. Personification is giving something non-human, human qualities. And lastly, a symbol is an image that has both a literal and a more general meaning. And it looks like Groovy Cheetah's in first place. All right, match the definition of each term again. The first term is hyperbole, the second term is rhyme, the third word is alliteration, and the fourth word is onomatopoeia. All right, and it looks like 45 you got this one. So again, hyperbole is an exaggeration. Rhyme is the use of words that end with the same sounds, like cat and bat. Alliteration is the use of words that begin with the same sound, like photograph and film. And onomatopoeia is the use of words that sound like the things they mean, like oink or splash. All right, and let's see. Here's the first poem that we're going to be discussing tonight, and the title is Big Jigsaw. So it begins, I've hunched so long above this puzzle, laid out on my gouged and ink-stained workbench. I think at last it's unsolvable, that the only meaning it holds is told in the moments I feel on the verge of understanding, and it turns me back. All right, so the first stanza here is describing the speaker who is hunched over a big jigsaw puzzle laid out on a workbench. And the speaker thinks the jigsaw puzzle is unsolvable um, and is on the verge of understanding it when uh, it turns him back. So basically in the moments that the speaker is close to understanding the jigsaw puzzle, he loses his understanding of it. All right, so the second stanza begins, the pieces so small, so many, how they belong together is beyond me. Though early on my mind inclined toward an idyllic scene, a yellow field, all jonquils, a sea, the wide horizon. And you'll notice here that the word jonquils has a superscript there, and that superscript you should always refer to whenever it's provided in a poem to tell you the meaning of the word. So in this case, jonquils means a type of yellow daffodil. All right, so the second stanza is describing the small size of the pieces and how they are beyond the speaker's comprehension at that time. The dog's dish is empty. My wife and children sleep. The house is hushed except for the stout hall clock that ticks its minutes. Here in my patch of lamplight, time dawdles, waiting for me to catch up, though a few small hairs on my wrist have gone white and evening's blank encircles me. All right, so in the third stanza of the poem, we see the speaker is describing what what's happening in the rest of the house. And we know the wife and children are asleep, the house is quiet, and time is waiting for the speaker to catch up. Who made this puzzle? If I sought him out, would he hear my plea and reveal its logic? But the hour is late, my vision strained. How could I look for him now, though he were waiting for me and knew me by name? And so in the final stanza of this poem, we hear the speaker asking the question, who made this puzzle? If I sought him out, would he hear my plea and reveal its logic? So the speaker of this poem does not think that the person who created this puzzle would um, reveal its logic to him. And this, of course, the speaker doesn't know how he could find the person who created this puzzle. So now let's answer some questions related to this poem. And the first one is, the opening stanza conveys a sense of, is it disorder, weakness, loneliness, or frustration? Go ahead and enter your answer here. All right, looks like we got the answers in quick, and almost all of you got this one correct. The opening stanza conveys a sense of frustration. All right, the next question, as used in the poem, the word idyllic in line 10 most nearly means charmingly beautiful, shrouded in mystery, full of surprises, or unexpectedly simple. And it looks like 43 of you got this one. The word idyllic in line 10 most nearly means charmingly beautiful. As it says here, how they belong together is beyond me, though early on my mind inclined toward an idyllic scene, a yellow field, all jonquils, a sea, the wide horizon. So this stanza is referring to a sea of yellow daffodils, which would be a charmingly beautiful scene. All right, and it looks like we have a new first place. Classy Buffalo is in first place now. All right, the next question, in lines 15 and 16, the phrase time dawdles waiting for me to catch up implies that the narrator is it wishing the family would wake up? Is it the narrator suffering from fatigue? Is the narrator lost in thought, or is the narrator annoyed by the stillness of the night? All right, and it looks like 33 of you got this one correct. The narrator is lost in thought in those lines. Again, it says, here in my patch of lamplight, time dawdles, waiting for me to catch up, though a few small hairs on my wrist have gone white and evening's blank encircles me. So these lines are referring to how the speaker is hunched over the jigsaw puzzle, which is illuminated by a lamp, and time is waiting for the speaker to catch up. Basically, the speaker is stuck on this jigsaw puzzle, and it's time for the speaker to probably go go to bed at this point. As it says, the evening's blank encircles me.
And I just want to take a moment to remind all of you that we are so lucky that Kenny is doing this right now. So I just wanted to tell everyone, I sent you the text in the chat for the big jigsaw, and guess where I just found this? I found this in the 10th, sometimes 11th grade English regions for January 2023. So this poem that an entire group of 86th graders are reading right now, this exact same poem appeared in the regions. I'm actually going to send it to you. I'm going to send you the questions and answers to the English regions. You can do that 10th, 11th grade regions for extra practice. Okay, everyone. So I'm going to send it into the link right now. Kenny, I don't even know if you knew that this exact same poem was in the New York State Regions exams. This is an amazing example. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for that observation, Francis. I was going to tell everyone that at the end. Before I didn't want to give the answers away too early. So the next question is, in the context of the poem as a whole, the jigsaw puzzle represents, is it a need for justifying choices, the experience of being human, the pleasure of solving problems, or a regret about trusting memory? And it looks like we have enough answers in, and it looks like 29 of you got this one correct. The experience of being human is what the jigsaw puzzle represents. Keep in mind here that the jigsaw puzzle is described as an enormous puzzle that the speaker cannot comprehend. The speaker has great difficulty trying to solve this jigsaw puzzle. The pieces are so tiny, and the speaker describes it as beyond him. The speaker asked the question in the final stanza, who made this puzzle? If I sought him out, would he hear my plea and reveal its logic? So you could compare that to the speaker asking the question, who who made me, basically, who made me a human being, and why am I here? So let's take a look at the next poem, I believe. Yes, it is. So here's the next poem. The title is Brand New Ancients. It begins, in the old days, the myths were the stories we use to explain ourselves. But how can we explain the way we hate ourselves? The things we've made ourselves into, the way we break ourselves into, the way we overcomplicate ourselves. But we are still mythical. We are still permanently trapped somewhere between the heroic and the pitiful. We are still godly. That's what makes us so monstrous. But it feels like we've forgotten we're much more than the sum of all the things that belong to us. The empty skies rise over the benches where the old men sit. They are desolate and friendless, and the young men spit. Inside they're delicate, but outside they're reckless, and I reckon that these are our heroes. These are our legends. That face on the street you walk past without looking at, or that face on the street that walks past you without looking back, or the man in the supermarket trying to keep his kids out of his trolley meaning grocery cart, or the woman by the post box fighting with her brawly meaning umbrella. Every single person has a purpose in them burning. Look again and allow yourself to see them. Millions of characters, each with their own epic narratives. Singing It's Hard to Be an Angel Until You've Been a Demon. The sky is so perfect, it looks like a painting, but the air is so thick that we feel like we're fainting. Still, the myths in this city have always said the same thing about how all we need is a place to belong, how all we need is to know what's right from what's wrong, and how we all need is to struggle to find out for ourselves which side we are on. We all need to love and be loved and keep going. All right. So let's take a look at some questions about this poem, and then we'll go back and analyze it as we answer the questions. In the first stanza, the narrator refers to myths to explain humans. Humans need to analyze themselves, humans' tendency to ignore their problems, humans' inclination to overindulge themselves, or humans' desire to organize their lives. Go ahead and enter your answer. All right, and we got all the responses in. 28 of you got this one correct. It's the first stanza in the first stanza, the narrator refers to myths to explain humans' need to analyze themselves. And again, the first stanza says, in the old days, the myths were the stories we used to explain ourselves. But how can we explain the way we hate ourselves, the things we've made ourselves into, the way we break ourselves into, the way we overcomplicate ourselves? So you can answer this question based on probably just the first two lines, where it says, in the old days, the myths were the stories we used to explain ourselves. That would be analogous to saying the myths explain humans need to analyze themselves. And it looks like Amazon Ostrich is in first place now. And the next question is, the statement, we are still godly, that's what makes us so monstrous in lines 10 through 11 suggests. Does it suggest human reluctance to learn from the past? the contradictions within human nature, human attachment to material possessions, or the limitations of human imagination. And 30 of you got this one correct. The statement, "we are still godly, that's what makes us so monstrous," in lines 10 through 11 suggests the contradictions within human nature. And if we take a look at the larger context here, it says, "But we are still mythical. We are still permanently trapped somewhere between the heroic and the pitiful. We are still godly. That's what makes us so monstrous. But it feels like we've forgotten we're much more than the sum of all the things that belong to us." So specifically, these two lines refer to the power of human beings, saying that we're still godly, but that's also what makes us so monstrous, so dangerous, um, so much of a reason to be feared. So the contradictions within human nature could refer to the godliness within humans, and yet the violent nature that also exists within humans. All right, and let's take a look at the next question here. As used in line 30, the word burning most nearly means presenting a danger, difficult to ignore, necessary to control, or lasting a short time. All right, and 24 if you got this one correct. Burning most nearly means difficult to ignore in line 30. The line says, "Every single person has a purpose in them burning. Look again and allow yourself to see them." So this line says, this line basically means that every single person has a purpose in them difficult to ignore. And we can see examples of this in the few lines before line 30. It says, "That face on the street you walk past without looking at," or "that face on the street that walks past you without looking back," or "the man in the supermarket trying to keep his kids out of his trolley," or "the woman by the post box fighting with her brolly." Every single person has a purpose in them burning. So it's difficult to ignore um, the purpose that each person has, even the people that you may walk past and never see again in the street. All right, so the next question is, which lines best reflect the central idea of the poem? Is it, "How can we explain the way we hate ourselves," in line 3? Is it, "The empty skies rise over the benches where the old men sit," in lines 15 to 16? Is it, "Millions of characters, each with their own epic narratives," in lines 32 to 33? Or is it, "The air is so thick that we feel like we're fainting," in line 37? And 37 of you got this one correct. The answer was millions of characters, each with their own epic narratives. That's the central idea of this poem. And basically, that means, or that's referring to the millions of humans that exist on Earth. Each of them have their own epic narrative or heroic story to be told. All right, and throughout the poem, the narrator develops a central idea primarily through the use of understatement, historical anecdotes, contrasting images, or personification. And the answer was contrasting images. 34 if you got this one correct. And lines 5 and 13 serve to emphasize a contrast between, oh, I think I was missing a slide there. Sorry about that. Um, there should be a slide here for this poem titled A Dream of Mountaineering. The following poem was written by a revered 8th century Chinese poet.
And everyone, I just want to remind you to check I just want to remind all of you to check the chat, because I'm literally copying and pasting from the English regions so that you can see that all of these poems appeared in the 10th and 11th grade when students sat for the high school regions exam. So I just want to share that nugget of wisdom with you, that even though you're in 6th grade, pretend you're in 10th grade, because you need to do those higher, harder, above grade level passages. Okay. Everyone hears me say yes. Yes. Okay. Are we going to do 6th grade passages? No. Are we going to do 7, 8, 9? Maybe. We're definitely doing 10th and 11th grade. So go and you can look up English regions, and that's where you're going to get really good practice for the Hunter exam passages. You're going to see poetry on the Hunter test, 1 to 2 passages, and you're also going to see this again when you take the SHSAT. So all of this material will be there. And I also want to plug Kenny's book. It's called SHSAT Poetry, but please, just keep in mind that you can also use this for the Hunter test. All right, everyone, I'm going to go back on mute.
Thank you, Francis. So the title of this poem is A Dream of Mountaineering. It was written by a revered 8th century Chinese poet. I'll go ahead and read the poem first, since we did not get a chance to do that before this first question. The poem begins, "At night, in my dream, I stoutly climbed a mountain, going out alone with my staff of Hollywood, 1,000 crags, 100 valleys. In my dream journey, none were unexplored. And all the while my feet never grew tired, and my step was as strong as in my young days. Can it be that when the mind travels backward, the body also returns to its old state? And can it be, as between body and soul, that the body may languish while the soul is still strong? Soul and body both are vanities, vanities meaning superficial things. Dreaming and walking both alike and unreal. In the day my feet are palsied, palsied meaning shaking, and tottering. In the night, my steps go striding over the hills. As night and day, as day and night are divided in equal parts, between the two I get as much as I lose." All right, so the question that we had here was lines 5 and 13 serve to emphasize a contrast between, and 19 of you were able to get this one. Illusion and reality. And we can see that here it says in line 5, "And all the while my feet never grew tired." And line 13 says, "In the day my feet are palsied and tottering." So the illusion here refers to my dream journey. It says in line 4, "In my dream journey, none were unexplored, and all the while my feet never grew tired." That's the illusion. The reality is the speaker's feet are actually shaking and tottering. All right, and let's see. The next question is, as used in line 10, languish most nearly means, is it communicate, deteriorate, survive, or forget? And 47, if you got this one correct, yes, it is deteriorate. The line says that the body may languish while the soul is still strong. The word while in this line indicates a contrast between those two words. Um, the opposite of strong in this case would be languishing, languishing meaning deteriorating. All right, and the next question, lines 15 and 16 suggest that day and night reflect failure, cause conflict, nourish creativity, or ensure balance. And 41 of you got this one correct. The lines 15 and 16 suggest that day and night ensure balance. We can see that it says in line 15, as day and night are divided in equal parts, between the two I get as much as I lose. So the use of the phrase equal parts is related to the idea of balance, and being able to get as much as you lose also has to do with the idea of balance. All right, and here is the last poem that we're going to be talking about tonight. The poem is titled The Gift. To pull the metal splinter from my palm, my father recited a story in a low voice. I watched his lovely face and not the blade. Before the story ended, he'd removed the iron silver I thought I'd die from. I can't remember the tale, but I hear his voice still. A well of dark water, a prayer. And I recall his hands, two measures of tenderness he laid against my face, the flames of discipline he raised above my head. Had you entered that afternoon, you would have thought you saw a man planting something in a boy's palm, a silver tear, a tiny flame. Had you followed that boy, you would have arrived here, where I bend over my wife's right hand. Look how I shave her thumbnail down so carefully she feels no pain. Watch as I lift the splinter out. I was 7 when my father took my hand like this, and I did not hold that shard between my fingers and think, metal that will bury me. Christen it little assassin, or going deep for my heart. And I did not lift up my wound and cry, death visited here. I did what a child does when he's given something to keep. I kissed my father. All right, so we'll analyze this poem in a few minutes after we go through the questions. Let's take a look at the first question here. The figurative language in lines 6 through 11 reflects the father's. Is it hesitation about inflicting pain, pride about removing the splinter, need to earn his son's respect, or ability to calm his son? All right, and 36 of you got this one correct. The figurative language in lines 6 through 11 reflects the father's ability to calm his son. It's lines 6 through 11 say, I can't remember the tale and hear his voice still, a well of dark water, a prayer, and I recall his hands, two measures of tenderness. He laid against my face, the flames of discipline he raised above my head. So we see a bit of figurative language scattered throughout these lines. It's his voice, a well of dark water. That's a metaphor there. Um, his hands, two measures of tenderness. That's another comparison. And the flames of discipline he raised above my head. So all of that reflects the father's ability to calm his son, especially the use of the word tenderness here. His hands laid against uh, basically the speaker's father's, the hands of the speaker's father laid against the speaker's face with tenderness reflects the father's ability to calm his son. All right, and the next question is lines 21 through 23 reveal that is the narrator worried that he might harm his wife? Is the narrator reassured by his wife's confidence? Has the narrator mastered his father's technique, or has the narrator forgotten his childhood trauma? And the answer was the narrator has mastered his father's technique. And we see that in these lines. Look how I shave her thumbnail down so carefully she feels no pain. Watch as I lift the splinter out. We know that the narrator has mastered his father's technique because earlier in the poem, we know that the speaker's father pulled a metal splinter out of the speaker's palm. And we can see in these lines that the speaker is being very careful to ensure that his wife feels no pain as he pulls the splinter out of his wife's hand. So in line 26, shard most nearly means wooden chip, shiny object, jagged piece, or small tool. All right, and 42, if you got this one correct, the word shard most nearly means jagged piece in this context. The line says, and I did not hold that shard between my fingers and think metal that will bury me. So oftentimes we use the word shard colloquially in phrases such as a shard of glass, which refers to a jagged piece of a sharp object. And the next question is lines 33 to 35 convey a sense of longing, gratitude, uncertainty, or accomplishment. And let's see, 36, if you got this one correct, the answer is gratitude. Again, the lines say, I did what a child does when he's given something to keep. I kissed my father. So the imagery that we see in these three lines indicates that the speaker is grateful to his father for giving him the metal splinter that was pulled out of the speaker's palm. And we can see that with the fact that the speaker kissed his father in the final line of the poem. All right, so that concludes the practice questions that I have for everyone tonight. If you'd like to find more practice material for the poetry on the Hunter exam, make sure to take a look at the New York State ELA Regents exams, which
And I'm gonna put it into the link. I'm also, everyone check the chat box. I'm putting this in.
now
Go
I should
ahead.
also note that the Hunter exam will have 5 answer choices for each of the poetry questions, whereas on the questions that we did tonight, there were only 4 answer choices for each one, so just be aware of that. And if you'd like to find additional poems, you can of course check out my SHSAT poetry guide, which you can find on Amazon. And a special offer to everyone that attended the webinar tonight. If you'd like to get $100 off a package of 10 hours of one-on-one tutoring with me, you can go to the link that you see on your screen here. And that is pretty much everything I have for you all.
So I just want to wrap up and I want to go over some important things that we need to know right now. Okay. Kenny, can you also just put the link to your book on Amazon so we have it? Okay, please.
Sure.
Have it. And then obviously, thank you so much for making time if you're for this particular webinar. And also everyone keep in mind that Kenny is available if needed as a private tutor, but you also have the book and you also have the Kweller course, as all of you know, is coming up. I want to also share with you. So we're having a bonus essay webinar. It's going to be a full 1 hour on March 30th. We're going to send that information to you. I will give you the gist of what you need to know for the essay. You should know that the essay will be a creative piece, or it will, which I told you last year, they used a graphic essay. It was a visual, it was a picture. It was about immigrating to America and the immigration journey. And you had to talk about whether you've ever journeyed. I can actually go through other Hunter essay prompts as well, but it's usually a descriptive essay and you have to have enhanced vocabulary. You cannot write as if you're a 6th grader. You have to write like a 10th or 11th grader. You have to write in an elevated level. So you are not writing for, you know, your little sibling or younger sibling to understand. You have to use elevated vocabulary. So we will have an avalanche of webinars, workshops, extra help. And I just want to focus on this one right now. Kenny, thank you. Thank you for guiding the students to the English Regions exams. Thank you for guiding the students to your book and for offering private tutoring as an option as well. I also want to remind everyone that we will be text messaging you and your parents. So we have the essay webinar coming up. That'll be 7:30. Our webinars are a little late at night because our staff is not available sooner. So Kenny, if you could just check the chat box, please. So just keep that in mind. This is really important. We have many webinars. So we're going to dedicate 3 full days to math because, you know, Hunter Math is Math Olympiad and it's very tricky. So we're going to dedicate 3 full days just to practicing math. You should have received the email. You should have received a text message. Make sure that you save our text number. Go into your phone and save it so that it doesn't go into junk, so that you receive all of our text alerts. Also, we're going to have March, I think it's, I want to say 28, 29, 30th. And then we have another set of webinars after this. We're just super busy. We have a lot of webinars. We have a lot of workshops. So I just want to remind all of you that we also have April 1, 2, and 3. We're just really keeping you busy. Lots of webinars, lots of workshops. Please keep that in mind as we're scheduling everything with you. And that's it. And we'll just be organizing as much as we can. We also have a stress reduction webinar. Do you guys want to type any questions you have as we're concluding? You can type into the chat box. I just want to remind you there, you can expect for the Hunter test, 50 reading questions, 1 to 2 poem passages, a written response. It's about 2 pages that you'll have to write on. We will send you the information with the essay. We're gonna provide a lot of essay tips, but I'll give you just some really good ones right now. I highly recommend those of you who are in the Kweller course, make sure that you are memorizing those vocabulary words. Go into the essay knowing that you're going to use 8 or 10 of those vocabulary words. Go into the essay knowing you're going to use 5 to 7 transitions, transitional phrases. Go into the essay knowing that you have at least 5 different topics that you feel very comfortable writing about. So you want to go into the essay fully prepared. Make sure that you don't leave anything to chance. Make sure that you really, really practice. So with regards to the English regions, we put that in the link for all of you. You can also look at those reading passages. You can literally look up the history of all the regions. Everything's online, so you'll get practice. This is a really hard exam, but this is an amazing opportunity. Kenny, if you can conclude, because you went to Stuyvesant High School, if you could just quickly share like what you really felt that Stuyvesant fine-tuned your skills as to where you are right now. And I guess we'll close up with wishing everyone good luck. We're going to send you more webinars, more workshops, more information. We just have a lot. We just have a lot of everything that we'll be providing. Okay, go ahead, Kenny, please.
Sure. Thank you, Francis. So again want to wish everyone the best of luck with the Hunter exam. And I strongly encourage everyone to spend as much time as they can practicing for the test. Getting into a school like Hunter or Stuyvesant would be absolutely a great opportunity for the students here on the webinar tonight to put themselves in a very competitive environment academically so that you can surround yourself with the right amount of pressure that you need to achieve your maximum potential in high school and then eventually go on to a great university career.
I also want to remind you, we have more webinars. We have the Math Marathon, March 20, 21, 22. That'll be from 7 to 9. We're just going to keep you guys super busy until the test. Just every day is a Kweller day, like every day. Just like don't do anything else. Just only one, okay? Please. What I'm going to do right now, if you stay with me, because I want Kenny give them advice. Everyone stay. I'm going to put the constant contact about the other webinars. I'm going to put them into the chat. So Kenny, please give them your final closing wisdom as I'm looking for my email right now, because I'm doing it right
Sure.
now.
I'll,
Stay with me,
I'll
okay?
just keep it short because I actually have a student at in a minute or
Okay,
so.
8 o'clock, okay.
So my final closing thought would be, as you're taking those practice tests for the Hunter exam, make sure you spend adequate amount of time reviewing your mistakes. Basically, as you're going over the answers for your practice exams, you should try your best to understand why you made the mistakes that you made. Keep a journal so that you can track the mistakes that you're making and identify any trends that could appear. Um, and keep on redoing the questions that you're getting incorrect until you get them correct multiple times in a row. And of course, Kweller Prep has an entire line of Hunter practice materials that you can find on Amazon. So I'll leave it there. Thank you again, everyone, for attending tonight's webinar.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you. Kenny, if you would like, you can log out. What I'm going to do with everyone listening here is the constant contact. I got it right this time. Oh, Kenny, thank you so much. Everyone, please type thank you into the chat. Give Kenny a huge thank you as he's departing so that he can enjoy a thank you from all of you. Okay, because you know he's volunteering to do this. I just want to let you guys know I beg, and he says yes. So I just want to send this to you, everyone. Do you see where earlier I sent you a link? It has all the different webinars. So basically this is how Kweller works. You signed up for the course, but then you're going to just get a lot of like almost twice as much class as what you paid for, because we're going to give you webinars, extra help, extra workshops. Like we just do everything well, and we make sure that you get a lot. So in the days ahead, just be aware, Monday, March 20, Tuesday, March 21, Wednesday, March 22. I'm going to put this again into the link so that you have this. We're also going to text you the schedule, but this, everything you see, and then we're also going to have April 1, 2, 3, and then we just added March 30th. So we're just going to keep you super duper busy until you know, this exam. Like we're just going to make sure that you get as much prep as you can. When you actually take the Hunter test, make sure you answer every question, make sure you bubble one at a time, and no matter what, finish the test. Even if you don't know, or if you're guessing, or if you're unsure, you only need 64 out of 100, and that's based off 80 questions. You don't have to go to the webinars, but oh, you'll really regret not going to the Kweller webinars. So I'll leave it at that, but we highly recommend that you make space and revamp your schedule to attend these webinars. So everyone, I just want to let you know, you can text message us feedback. You can text message us any questions you have. Our button is on. We want you to succeed. We want you to excel, and we want to do everything in our power so that you do great, okay? Everything we can do. When I'm going to close, I'm going to show you our cute little Goldie mascot. Okay, we're going to close. I'm going to switch to the spotlight. Okay, ready, everyone? We're going to switch. Am I on spotlight? I hope I am. I am, right? Say yes. Am I on spotlight? Hold on, guys. I'm going to show you a cute little dog, and then we're going to close up our webinar. Who wants to see a cute dog? Anybody? Hello, everyone. Ready? Okay, ready? Goldie, look here. Who wants to see a cute dog? Ready? Goldie. Goldie. Wish everyone good luck. Here we go. Goldie. This dog has visited Harvard, Princeton, Yale, New York University. Look at this dog. Goldie, give me a look. No, Goldie, we're being in the recorded camera. No, I don't. All right, everyone. We have a lot of entertainment for you. Anyway, this is Goldie, the mascot of Kweller. You'll see her. She's at Kweller. She's 12 and a half years old. All right, everyone. I'm very proud of you. I hope that you got a lot out of this webinar. I hope you got a lot out of this workshop. And that's it. We hope that you enjoy it. Keep coming to the webinars, practice everything, go through the chat, okay? Now, we're going to log out. This is the very last thing I'm going to do. I'm going to send you once again. I'm going to put this into the chat box one more time. I want everyone here to save this link. It has all the webinars. It has all the schedules. All right, keep practicing. Good. Bye, Goldie. All right, everyone. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye. Goldie says bye, look. Bye. Bye, Goldie. She's a talking dog. Hello. I'm kidding. She doesn't talk. But she kisses. No, Goldie, don't do it in public. People will see. Okay. All right, everyone. Enjoy. Have fun. Make me proud. Keep studying. You can stop studying April 6th. Deal? Keep going, everybody. Okay? Keep going. Bye, everyone. Make me proud. Okay? Bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Say bye, Goldie. She's waving to you. Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. You can all log out. Okay. The scoring question, there are 50 math questions. There are 50 reading questions. I apologize. There are 30 math questions. On the Hunter test, there's also an essay. Reading and math, you need to accumulate 64 points in total out of 100 points in total. The reading, again, this is all data that we got from many, many years ago for the Hunter test. Total was 64. After 64, everyone goes to 0, and then they will read the essay. And the highest, the essay is usually read by 3 different teachers at Hunter and 2 students, and they score. And the top 125 or so, 175 in total are admitted, 50 from the kindergarten, because you know Hunter also has a K-6. Keep that in mind as well. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye, everybody. Make me proud.